A recent study by the UN Conference on Trade and Development found that a tax of $44 per ton of carbon emitted would slash pollution from the supply chain by half. It also estimated that first world countries would make $2.5 billion from the tax, but developing countries might lose up to $5.9 billion. In a press conference on Wednesday, Raquel Moses, CEO of the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator, said each country has to pay for its part in pollution.
I think it serves as a catalyst, right? What we want countries to uh, decarbonize their economies, but we also can't pretend that we aren't participating in those economies. So if we aren't paying the full price, including the carbon for those products, then we need to. And I think it's a great move. The economic impact, I think it will be startling at first, but we have long advocated for a price on carbon so that we are actually factoring in the cost of how we operate. And I think it's a necessary progression towards us decarbonizing our economies.
Through the tax, the EU hopes to set a price on the carbon emitted to make energy intensive products like iron, steel, cement, fertilizer, and aluminum in other countries. The aim is to both reduce emissions from imports and create a level playing field for goods made in the European bloc that must meet stricter green standards. So how will this directly affect Grenada's economy? Speaking to GBN, Christopher Diali, former Senator for Business in the Upper House of Parliament, said this can directly affect Grenada's construction sector.
So for construction, it would significantly impact the cost of constructing buildings and all the projects that we're going into. And remember, Grenada's economy for 2024 is going to be predicated primarily on the construction sector doing well. We have a number of projects in play already, so we need to understand how that will affect what is going to happen in terms of increases in costs. For the average man on the street who wants to build a home, you would have gone to the bank and negotiated the cost of your home at a particular price, and based on the mortgage and what you could afford. When we had a similar situation after COVID, and the price of steel and all of these things went up, a lot of people had to change their design for their homes and go back to the bank and renegotiate. So it poses a lot of difficulty.
Diali also pointed out the pros and cons for the general population.
For the average man on the street who wants to build a home, you would have gone to the bank and negotiated the cost of your home at a particular price, and based on the mortgage and what you could afford. When we had a similar situation after COVID, and the price of steel and all of these things went up, a lot of people had to change their design for their homes and go back to the bank and renegotiate. So it poses a lot of difficulty, and indirectly our financial institutions will have difficulty dealing with these cost increases that is going to incur with these projects. So, well, I mean, construction workers right now, as far as I understand it, is in demand. So you may have a situation where they will probably be buoyed and not immediately have to be impacted by getting them released from projects, because projects, no, we need probably more workers than we could afford with those large projects. So they may have a delayed effect on the situation. So hopefully that will help.
The former senator spoke of some ways in which Grenada can prepare to mitigate this issue.
Other sectors in terms of blue is something we need to look at, because the blue economy is using the natural resources of the seas around us to see how we can impact what we do in the economy. Green is probably, from a construction point of view, is how we build differently and what kind of other materials we could use besides concrete and steel, because there are a lot of technical developments in different types of material now for building that you could consider using. So that will require a lot of innovation and, of course, understanding. But then again, some of these materials are not cheap. And then we're in a hurricane zone. So we have to be careful what we do and make sure the structural integrity is good enough to withstand some of